Everybody. Welcome to our second in a series of webinars, workshops with Justin Hancock, who is a partner at Seidrlab and an experienced product leader with 15 years plus building and scaling software globally. He's a former VP and he has held senior roles at companies like Just Eat Takeaway, Get, and Starres, and now helps organizations deliver practical AI transformation. So today's session is about designing your AI roadmap, which is something we're all interested in. About bridging the gap between technology and workflow design. And so this session really blends tips and tricks for faster day-to-day work, and then shows how to think about building your first AI roadmap. We showcase workbench habits, streamlined through pre-simulated demos to ensure session efficiency. And after that, you'll learn how to apply fast and effective prioritization methods to rank use cases by impact, effort, and other critical dimensions. And finally, we use the impact first filter to ensure AI projects align with your priorities and maintain a human in the loop for critical decision making. So Justin, over to you. I hope you can explain everything that I just said.
Thank you so much, Judy. How's my sound this morning? Good on your end?
Yes. Yep.
Fantastic.
All sounds good.
Excellent. Well, good morning, everyone. I can see everyone slowly coming in, and I hope you're feeling bright-eyed and bushy-tailed this morning, ready with your appropriate caffeinated drink or herbal tea. It's my pleasure to be taking you through today's workshop on designing your AI roadmap. And as Judy said, this is in partnership with obviously CHP Australia. We've been doing a series of these. You've made it to the second one. So if this is your first one, I'll be giving you a little bit of an update on what we covered last time, just so you're not starting completely cold, and then we'll jump into the content. I'm going to treat it very casually. We have a few live demos, as has been mentioned by Judy, and by live, they're pre-recorded, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of walk you through these videos and show you what I'm doing, and then we can get a bit more of an insight into some of these quote unquote workbench activities that are making my life easier, but this is also obviously what we work with here at Seidrlab in implementing across multiple companies. So today, yes, the workbenches we're calling it. Today we've picked two interesting demos for you. There's the meeting synthesis approach. I'm sure many of you are doing something like this, but if you're not, that's absolutely fine. And probably one of the reasons you're here today. So we'll talk you through some of the just standard processes that some people are using right now to auto transcribe meetings and then get those meeting transcripts written up as notes and compared against one's diary. There's lots of low-hanging fruit for people in just using the off-the-shelf AI tools that are out there in the industry. And then we've got a marketing EDM creation demo as well, which I'm going to take you through. This is the first time that I've attempted to do something like this, so if we have any technical challenges, I'm sure you'll be patient with me, but excited to just kind of give you a bit of a look underneath the hood. The second part of this is more strategic, and it's about how you can do this sort of stuff for your company and where you should be looking to start, how you might actually think about whittling down your use cases. We talked about this briefly last time, but in webinar 1, which is available online on YouTube, thanks to CHP who have put it up there, you can hear me talk a little bit more about the foundations of data integrity, governance, thinking about where you are in the market right now. Our lens as a boutique specialist AI transformation agency is very much about thinking about where Australia is in this mix right now. Myself and Harry, our managing partner, and the other Seidrlab partners have all had extensive experience working overseas, but we're now very interested in helping the Australian economy transform. So today, where are you? Filtering and sequencing that roadmap, and then a little bit about how we work as well, which you can copy into your process, or if you choose to, we can also help your organization with this sort of stuff as well. So Seidrlab is actually an Old Norse, so an old Scandinavian name. It's pronounced Seidr, and our managing partner Harry actually has Swedish roots and means wisdom and foresight in Old Norse, and it's about sort of bringing to unpredictable times a little bit of wisdom and certainty around how to navigate change. And we feel that that's entirely relevant right now, given the pace of change with technology and what it means, not just for those in technology native businesses, but across the entire economy. I'm sure we all agree it's kind of a remarkable time to be living. And we can talk a little bit more about just like what we're seeing in trends, but that's who we are at a brand name level. Our thesis is very much around augmentation, not automation. You know, read in the press at the moment, particularly if you follow the public markets, a lot of knee-jerk reactions to, well, we're going to bring in AI and we're going to automate all these roles out of a company, and we strongly disagree with that approach. Not only for the more practical reason that that is a very uncertain thing to be betting on at the moment, AI and AI's ability to execute roles, but more importantly, that AI should be helping people do their roles better. You should have more time to do the things that you're truly good at in your role, and spend less time on the mundane, the bureaucratic, the process-driven componentry, because that's what AI is good at and becoming increasingly good at. So we believe that jobs evolve, industries transform, and this is, of course, not new. We've lived through many significant technological and economic transitions as a species. We're going through one right now, but the organizations that move through this deliberately with a good plan and testing and iterating as they go, well, they're the ones that we believe are really going to win. Our experience internationally moves across a variety of sectors. You see some well-known consumer brands on this page here as well, but we also work with leading international investors such as Vista Private Equity out of Austin, Texas, which is one of the largest international investors in enterprise tech with 100 billion under management. And Emerson Collective is Lorraine Power Jobs, Steve Jobs' wife, Philanthropy Collective, and many more organizations that we've had the luxury and the honor of working for have helped build our pedigree. So we as technology professionals are planning to bring our expertise to non-tech native industries, because we believe we have a technology problem that is now being applied across a range of the economy, and it needs to be navigated appropriately. Ladies and gentlemen, where did we leave off? When we last spoke to you a few months ago, things were moving fast. And I'm, of course, here to say that they haven't slowed down by any extent of the imagination. Current studies by McKinsey show that things continue to rise significantly internationally. AI adoption is smashing through the economy, both literally and metaphorically. People are adopting it at a consumer level in their lives. They're seeing it adopted in organizations. And actually, it's that consumer adoption trend that we find incredibly interesting, because it leads to what's called shadow AI use in the workforce, which is where you may not have a policy or an approach set out yet for how you use AI in your company, but your staff are already using these tools. And so they're going to put company data into their own personal ChatGPT or Claude account. And I can tell you that's not what you want as an organization. If you want to hear me talk a little bit more about this, you can refer to webinar 1, or you can get in contact with us at the end and we'll tell you a little bit more about how we advise organizations to get control of that problem. Also really interesting, Anthropic, which is the company that makes the LLM, which is large language model, as many of you will know. That's the mainstream AI tools we see out there, like ChatGPT, like Claude, like Gemini. So Anthropic has overtaken OpenAI in the last month in terms of B2B use globally. And there are some interesting reasons for that, but we won't go into those today. It's an interesting angle in terms of what we're seeing in the market in terms of adoption. When we work with financial services firms, investors, and professional services firms, we see a significant move towards Claude, but many remain on the Microsoft 365 stack. So they're caught between trying to work out, do we use Copilot for this and do we use Claude for this? That's a lot of what we find we're advising clients on right now. And again, you know, there are different reasons to use these models. They have different capabilities. If you're working with proprietary data, then you might want to consider even installing and using models locally on premise, which is a more technically complex setup, but actually worth it if you're handling particularly important data. And I'm sure many of you do handle PII data to some extent. So the landscape continues to move. We are seeing more regulatory clarity come into the Australian scene at this particular point in time. Australia is not governed by any overarching AI legislation like what you see moving through the European Union at the moment, but it does still have references to that or to correct AI principles kind of contained within some of the other privacy legislation that you'll be familiar with as well. Corporate governance is making references to this. There are other national standards across industries, for instance, the voluntary AI safety standard that is becoming more prevalent across Australian business adoption. So yeah, interesting time in the Australian market. And you might actually be interested to know that in terms of Anthropic's Claude usage, which I mentioned was the breakout B2B product, and that's the one I'm going to be talking about today. But don't worry if that demo is being presented in Claude. The same use cases apply to Microsoft 365 and Copilot and to ChatGPT. It's more about how you work with these tools to get the outcomes, which I'll talk about shortly. But Australia is the fourth largest consumer and business adoption market for Anthropic's Claude globally. So you might find that quite interesting. We are, even though some of the regulation and discussion at the national level is probably behind where it is in the European Union, Asia, and America, we are seeing very rapid adoption and usage of the tools in this market as well. So today we're going to talk more about that setting in the context of a sequence roadmap and some scoring language and approaches that you can think about as you go about constructing your AI roadmap. When we last talked to you, we talked about our proprietary piece of thinking here, which is the AI maturity curve. And other organizations out there like McKinsey and Gartner are doing similar studies and similar thinking. We have come up with this because we noticed it based on the patterns of what our customers are doing in the market, that AI adoption as a macro level strategy kind of looks like it's broken into 5 stages. And we set this continuum, if you will, because we believe that it's important for you as a leader in your business. And I know we have some very high ranked individuals on the call, as well as those who are in mid-level jobs. It's relevant for all of you. But if you are working strategically a lot, you'll want to think about what the end game is for you. And it's more than just, can we automate a few workflows and get some positive ROI from that? I think where we believe this is going is the agentic movement, which is the use of agents in AI, which essentially means autonomous approaches to long-running AI tasks. So at the moment, you can prompt stuff, and I'll talk about that shortly. But where this goes is, and I'm sure you are familiar or have heard at least about agentic AI and the use of agents. We see a future where agents are quite widespread across organizations. And like we said, we believe in augmentation. So humans will work quite closely with agents. But what agents will end up doing by virtue of being hooked into the right systems is being able to tell you when they think you are moving away from the strategic goals that you've been setting in an organization. And if you think about it right now, we're just at that stage of just getting used to the tools. We get some better workflows, we get some summarization, we get some business intelligence done quicker than we used to. But where it can go to is actually a more complete and holistic view of your company's strategy, of series of agents telling you that you're off track on the quarterly offsite goals that you set, and that your management team is spending too much time on these things by auditing their calendar and suggesting pivots in the week. And we like to eat our own dog food or drink our own champagne here at Seidrlab. And so as much as we're out there in the market helping companies struggle with or grapple, should I say, it isn't just about struggling, it's about grappling. And I do find it incredibly stimulating and fun. And I think many of you can probably think about it in those terms as well. And you should, because it's an exciting time. But, we think, we see a lot of companies just thinking about, okay, well, I've got to get these tools embedded and I'm going to get, a few workflows improved. But, we want to move companies towards this idea of integrated AI, of having agents that help with strategy. And so back to my point on drinking our own champagne, we do this too. We spend time every week going through our operations, looking at where we can apply AI, testing it, triaging it, helping it work better, training it, building new harnesses, as they're called, around the implementation to get better results. And that is helping us understand just how we're going about this automation journey and this agentic journey ourselves. We have an interesting call out on slide or stage 2. You see here, we say most organizations, oh, there's a typo there. My apologies, trying to make some last minute changes. Most organizations get stuck here. And that's because the step from stage 2 to stage 3 is quite significant. That's where you start plugging in via what's called model context protocols. Essentially, it's an AI version of an API, which some of you will be familiar with. If you're not, all it means is you're getting one tool to talk to another tool, or in particular, you're getting Copilot to talk to your emails, or you're getting Copilot to talk to your SharePoint, or you're getting Gemini to work with your marketing assets folder, etc. So that integration is where a lot of companies stop moving as quickly. And it's really the major unlock. So getting your technology stack set up appropriately so that you can use your LLM of choice to start doing workflows quicker and faster is a really important part of setting up your organization for success here. And part of what this is, as well, is you can see I'm talking about two things at once. We're talking about what you can just do with the tools that come out of the box for you without any custom build. And then there's also the stuff where you want to go, we want to imagine a brand new process using AI. And of course, that's what my organization does as well, is build custom integrations with AI as well. But there is a lot about just getting up to speed with the tools. And one thing we find ourselves doing a lot right now is going in and running trainings on various AI tools. And if that's of interest to you, please just let us know via email. You'll see my email on the final slide. So yeah, this is the high level. A lot of companies still in experiment and prompt engineering, but making their way through to stages 3, 4, and 5 is where we see the major unlock. Last time we talked about change management being a really core component of this, and it still remains that. We see this to be pretty much the difference between organizations that ultimately make a go of it, if they make it to stage 3, 4, and 5, versus organizations that stall and unfortunately start to see their AI program unravel. And that's because the workforce at any one time is always made up of a combination of different perspectives on technology. We all know this. We see it in our day-to-day lives. You see the optimists who want to adopt new tools. You hear them in conversations saying, I'd love to try this out, or I've been experimenting with this thing on the weekends. And you see the fence sitters who go, I'll follow company directive on this, but I'm waiting for a company policy on AI, and management has slowed down in terms of delivering that, and I'm not sure why. So I'm just going to not engage with the tools. And then you see the skeptics, the ones who are asking the questions that people should ask, but probably becoming slightly too paranoid about actually certain elements of this. A constructive conversation with people like this around, yes, the economy is changing, but your role is valued here, and with AI we can get better results from your role. That's the one that we like to propose gets made in organizations, and that's the one we see as successful. And so understanding how you talk to these three different personas, I can't stress enough, is a really important part of your transition towards an AI first organization as well. What we like to say is that the optimists move, and they're the champions that can sort of move a pilot through to a successful adoption. The data that comes from that tends to transform the fence sitters into being watered down optimists, if you will. And then the fence sitters moving is actually a cue for the skeptics to think a little bit more about whether they should second guess their approach. Because the skeptic will be naturally skeptical of the optimist, but may relate more to the fence sitter. And so these change management personas are really important to how you think about how you create a upward spiral, as we call it. And that is coming from systems theory thinking. And this is no new concept, but if you want change to be successful in any paradigm, you want to be able to talk about what this will do as an organization, how it's working successfully, point to data points, point to positive success stories. I was just with a client yesterday where senior management were talking about creating FOMO events, which is obviously fear of missing out. They want to create a program of work that is successful, that will point to how they've done initially and drive essentially a positive energy and vibe in the company that many people will harness. If you're trying to work out where to start, just start with one person. find a task that drains them, remove that with AI, give some time back, produce those results, show those people those results. Evidence to Psalms the skeptic, as mentioned. So don't sell the change, build the proof, is what we say here at Seidrlab. All right, now we're going to get into the workbench. And I'm going to admit, I am a little bit nervous about this. I know that the demo gods are never particularly kind in how they see live demonstrations of technology, but as a technology professional, it is my duty to give it a red hot crack. And so today I have two case studies for you. The first is this one around scheduled tasks. Now, scheduled tasks is a feature in most of the large language model AI tools at the moment. You'll find yourself in meetings every week. And if we all had the ability to be on camera at the moment and I asked you to put your hands up, I'm sure many of you would say you spend too much time in meeting. And we know that from our studies, the average meeting length is around 47 minutes. And afterwards, you can spend time writing notes, depending on how highly regulated your industry is. And of course, consumer healthcare products, I know, has regulatory overheads. Then the onus of note taking is real. And we consider that in a tool that will cost as little as $12 a month can save real measurable time on a person per week. And when multiplied out by many different people, it's actually a really low effort use case to get high ROI in terms of operations back. So I'll show you a little bit of how I work. On the bottom here, you see you see a call out called the flow. I'll talk to you quickly about that. My demo today is slightly different to that, but I think this is an interesting one for you. So Claude with a P, not with a C, .ai is a hardware company that offers wristbands, necklaces, and credit cards, which are conspicuous, not inconspicuous. This isn't about spying on people. This is about having a device you can take to a meeting and say, hey, like, I'm enjoying this spontaneous creative conversation, but because we haven't booked a call right now and we haven't got transcription running, can I just record this on this device? And we've found that to be incredibly helpful in capturing more of those sort of water cooler chats. So we here at Seidrlab use Claude AI internally and we use it with clients. We record that and then it gets spat into a large language model of choice. It will produce a summary. Claude, actually, if you were to subscribe to them, and we don't have any incentives or kickbacks here, it's just a decent tool that I enjoy using, has a number of off-the-shelf templates, if you will. It can write very detailed minute style execution on meetings, or it can provide high level sort of overviews of what that conversation was about. You can, on the Claude.ai website, simply upload that conversation with your device and get it to pick the template that you like. What we then do is we use we use the Claude product to actually look for that transcript that gets emailed to us automatically by Claude, and it will extract that transcript, and it will then send the actions from that into Jira, which is our project management system. Now, I know Jira is more a tech-native project management, but all you need to think about here is whatever your method is for organizing your time, this is about transcribing conversations, automatically noting those up into to-dos, and then sending those to your project management software. And I'll show you one thing else I'll do with my calendar at the end as well, which might be of interest. So let's give it a go. All right, so in this demo, you are now currently looking at the Claude UI, a user interface, similar to other tools. Looks a little bit like ChatGPT, a little bit like Microsoft in some ways if you're not familiar with it. And you can see here on the left, I've got a number of conversations that I've been having with Claude recently. Claude has 3 breakaway products, and I think you can see my mouse moving here. Yeah, you can. In the top, I might even try and use this nice little pen here or laser pointer. Yeah, so up here in the top right-hand corner, Claude's breakout products are its chat function, which is the little chat bubble there. I'm in what's called Co-work, which is the actual product that is making Claude so successful with businesses at the moment. And on the right here is Claude Code, which you may have also heard about, which is actually a misnomer. It's not just for developers. Excuse me. It's for those who want to programmatically update documents quite quickly. I use it to create Excel. I use it to create visuals. I use it even to create the deck that you're looking at today. How about that, ladies and gentlemen? Co-work works by simply being pointed at a folder. So you could point it at your SharePoint, you could point it at Microsoft, any like OneDrive, you could point it at Google Drive, you could point it at a locally hosted folder on your company intranet, for instance, and it will work on your documents for you within that. Today, I've kicked this task off, and I've said just at a higher level, and it actually hasn't got a working folder assigned at the moment. So I tell you that just because you can think about the possibilities of working with Cowork more generally when you know that it can work on the documents that you work on day to day. But in Cowork, I've just kicked this prompt off and I've said, create me a scheduled task that runs at midday every day that hooks into my Gmail and looks for any Gmail. Now, here's an interesting point. The reason there's an in there is because I use voice a lot. I find it works much quicker for me. Some of you will hate that. It's some of you will love it. It's highly controversial at Seidrlab. About 50% of us use voice and about 50% type. Those who type argue that they think their thing through quicker, and those who use voice are like me. They like to talk and they're good at talking to create ideas. So I tend to use voice in Claude directly. And so it's quite fun today for you to see what's underneath the hood of what's going on here. You'll see some scrappy stuff. You'll see some demo stuff that doesn't look picture perfect. And that's because I want you to see that. I want you to see what it looks and feels like for me on a day-to-day basis. So you can think a little bit about, I can imagine how that would work for me as well. So we're hooking into Gmail and it's going to look for transcripts that have been emailed over the last 24 hours. And then it's going to update them into docx format and store them on OneDrive, because sometimes different tools send them in different formats, but we know docx gets read very well by any of the large language models. It's going to put those transcripts in a Google Drive folder for me, nice and neat, which is lovely. And then it's going to summarize those particular transcripts for me. And it's going to create a briefing that tells me, okay, here's what the actions were from those. And by the way, Justin, here's what your diary looks like for the next week. And here's where I suggest you could have some work slots to do that. It would go as far as booking those slots for me, but for today's exercise, I'll just show you how that produces a recommendation for that. All right, so it's picked that task up. It's asked me some clarifying questions, which I find quite helpful. Where should the meeting transcripts and daily summary be delivered? For the calendar bookings, should I actually book them or just suggest slots, as mentioned? So that's particularly powerful if you want to automate that. And then lastly, where does Google Drive or where in Google Drive should these be stored? And that's in the transcripts folder that I've asked it to set up. So let's play this. I'll just stop that for a moment. Now, this is sped up in the interest of time because we want to get through a few of these. Okay, just pausing there quickly. We're in the scheduled tasks UI now. It's created this daily task. So as long as I've got my computer open, it's going to run this. And if the computer isn't open, it will run it or ask me to run it again when I open it as well. But this runs in the background every day. I don't even need to worry about it, which is fantastic. And you can create new tasks. In here, you can see, sorry, apologies. I knew this was going to be a bit bumpy. In the actual scheduled task, you can now see the instructions. You can see it's active. You can see it's going to run daily, and you'll have a history of the times it's run as well. All right, let's see. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so now it's running it. It's working on it. Funnily enough, what's going on there is now I actually changed Windows. Why did I change Windows? Because I was working on this deck with another product, another product called Claude Design in the background. So I was multitasking while setting this demo up for you and actually getting Claude Design to build a deck, which is something that is particularly useful for us. And I imagine many of you can relate to actually wanting to speed up presentations. And now I'm in my Gmail, and you can see in this folder here, transcripts, here are two transcripts that have come across. One's called the cross-eye check. That's when we get a partner on the phone with one of us and go, hey, I've been looking at this deck for too long. Can you check it for me and make sure it looks okay? And another is an internal call I had with Harry, our managing partner, who was helping me with some of my environment setup to make things even faster with an automation point of view. So, sorry, excuse me. It's a bit finicky on this demo. Okay, so let's keep going. Okay, now in Google Drive, I now have a morning briefings folder. That's where Claude is producing these documents. You can see it's already spun one up. And we're also going to have a look at transcripts. That folder's empty at the moment. And now we're going back to Cowork, where it's starting to work with Google Drive directly. You see the Google Drive connectors are right there. You can see in Claude Design there, you can see all the things I'm working on here. And all the tasks is running, and then Claude is running here as well at the same time for me. So it's amazing what these workflows start to do in terms of parallel work, and that's what I was trying to show you quickly at this particular point in time. Claude's thinking, it's looking in transcripts folders, it's looking in the wrong spot, I think, at the moment. So it's saying, okay, there's nothing there at the moment. or it actually might be looking at the right spot. But you'll find that when you go through these types of setups, there's a lot of teething of just like fine tuning things occasionally. And again, this is what we do for organizations to make it a bit easier so they don't have to do the manual iterative process of making sure something was wired properly or working out that in fact it wasn't working as expected. On the right-hand side here, you can see progress. Claude has actually spun up 3 tasks. If it's more than 3 tasks, it will actually itemize those so you can see what it's working on. But you can follow along. It's using Google Drive now. It's connecting to Google Drive and it's creating these documents as well. So we'll let it play out a little bit more and you can just kind of get a feel for like how it goes about this. It's working on it now. You can see the connectors over here on the right. I've got Google Calendar, Google Drive, and Gmail connected at this point in time. It's thinking a little bit more about what it's creating. It's creating this file, continues to think. All right, here we go. So it said, right, I've run it. I've found 2 transcripts. It's processed those. It's created my morning briefing. There it is. And then it's given me a little bit of a reminder on the fact that there's some support files in place. There's a JSON file there that's dumped in the folder as well. Now we're going to go back over and here we go. Those are the transcripts. If we go to the transcripts folder, if we go to the transcripts folder, you'll see that, yes, there they are. There's the 2 transcripts. They're written up. They've been brought into that folder and they've been created as docx. And now I was going to go to the morning briefing and you can see there's morning briefings in here now, the documents. It's produced this document for me. And let's have a look. All right, so this isn't formatted. As I mentioned, this is to be rough. But you can see it's read the cross-eye check transcript and it's read the environment setup and it said, this is what happened in those meetings, Justin. Here's a link to those transcripts. And here's what you need to be doing off the back of that. So I needed to go and look at a platform that we're potentially partnering with called DevRev. I needed to synthesize some findings into an upcoming meeting we've got with their CTO. Harry had to take a few actions here. He had to go and set up a few pilots. He had to post some stuff on LinkedIn. There's a reference to our other partner who we were assigning work to. And then it's saying, hey, Justin, here's what you've got going on this week. You can even see the CHP webinars booked on here as well. And lastly, it's suggested slots where I could work on these particular actions. And again, if I wanted to do this in an automated fashion, get those invites set up, I could absolutely do that. So that is demo 1, ladies and gentlemen. I spent a bit more time on that than I anticipated, but I just wanted to kind of walk you through with a little bit more detail on what's going on with Claude, because I assume some of you aren't native to this platform. But again, it is entirely replicable in Gemini, OpenAI, or Copilot. The next one is for all our friendly marketing people on the phone. And this one is around creating a EDM marketing campaign out to pharmacists. So, you could be drafting particular creative briefs and you could be having to iterate on those. You could have to send them up the chain to various marketing leaders in the organization. In this flow, we believe you can claim back a significant amount of time. Not only can you control for brand voice and move through designs quicker, but you can move to an A/B testing format quite quickly where you're just looking at different views on the page and actually clicking between different views quite quickly and easily. It makes for a very fast workflow. So this flow starts with a brief and some goals. Then we go back into Claude. We look at Claude creating 3 variations. It creates tone and brand voice, and then there's a human review. So let's dive in. Right, so we're back in Claude now. We're on the web app now. You can see I'm in my browser. And I'm saying here, I'm a digital marketing executive at a consumer healthcare company, and my brand manager just sent me this email. And I need to turn it into a structured creative brief before end of day. So here's the email that came in from my boss. It said, hey, can you put together an EDM for pharmacare digestive relief for pharmacists? We want to hit them before the winter season kicks off. And the key message is around fast acting dual action relief. We've got a new clinical study we can reference. The audience is community pharmacists. Main CTA should be sample requests. Keep it punchy, and I need it pretty soon. So I've taken that email from my manager. I put it into Claude, and then I've said generate a structured creative brief from this. So let's see what it does. Here it is. All right, it's going to push this through pretty quickly. So there you go. There's a full brief, creative brief being created right here now. And it's given me some notes. At the end, it said, hey, there's a few gaps in here that need filling. It's reminded me that there's probably going to need to be an important regulatory review. And I know that our friends at AdCheck do a lot of this as well. And there's some subject line testing as well, which it can help provide too. And I've asked it to give it to me in a .md file. That's just the same as a docx. You don't need to worry about that, but it's something that I can download because I want that downloadable file, this brief, so I can take it into Claude Design, which is the next copy workflow you can, is the next part of this workflow that you can copy for yourself. And so here's the MD file. Let's open it up. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to then take that into Claude Design. Claude Design is available at claude.ai. You can see it on the left menu when you go there, and then you click Design and it opens up this user interface. It's a brand new product. It's been out for about a month or so. It is making absolute headlines around the world. It's been touted as a competitor to Canva for those of you who use that, and it is generally very good. In this instance, we're going to use a prototype selection, and we're going to hit high fidelity. So I'm in here, I've got my design language applied, so we're moving quickly because I am conscious of time, and I'm calling it the EDM design campaign, and I've got these little pill icons on the bottom there. So I'll just pause again. The pill icons that you can see just down here show the selection. And there's a Seidrlab design system in here. So if you had a design system, you could upload it to Claude Design so it knows exactly what to do in terms of how to make these look. And then I've got pasted text, 108 lines. That's the markdown file I just mentioned to you, which is the creative brief. And so it's off and running now. At the same time, I am just having a quick look through the other contents within that because I've even kicked it off before even reading it in totality, which I don't recommend. But if you are moving quickly, you could do both at the same time. Now, it's going to ask some questions. It's going to say, okay, like, do you have a brand identity for this particular thing that you're looking to create? What's the visual tone for the email? You can pick a color set. You can look at like the general layout of the email. And I've just gone ahead and quickly answered those questions. And now it's going to start sauteing, as it says. Claude has these funny little mannerisms where it uses these placeholder working action motions with hilarious verbiage. So there you go. It's created a to-do list. And now it's kicked this process off, and it's started to build this asset in the background. Let's see where it gets to. You can see that it's actually working on a range of different tasks. Often what it will do is it will spin up multiple agents. Okay, here we go. We're through to the first cut. So, sorry, just to finish that point, multiple agents will be working on simultaneous design tasks at once. Claude can do that. And what you're looking at here is now a canvas. It has 3 different options on it, which we'll walk through quickly. These SL 1, 2, and 3 up here, they're subject lines that you can rotate between. So you can see, oops, so you can see the SL3, I'm clicking between the subject lines. You can see it's done a pretty great job, right? In terms of design, it's gone through, it's created all these different blocks. It's made placeholder references to the study that you wanted to include. You can upload other image assets if you're looking for it. And generally, you've got something to show your brand and marketing leadership to compare against quite quickly. In fact, this whole thing took me about 10 minutes to achieve. The last thing that we'll do, is, again, apologies for the slightly fiddly nature of playing these videos in a PowerPoint presentation on a live webinar. I'm just giving you a kind of a look across this whole thing. At the very end here, I believe, no, it hasn't come in. So the final frame that I wanted to show you, but what wasn't making it into the demo, was actually me going back into Claude Cowork and asking it to take these designs and to draft an email back to my line manager. And so it did that very effectively and easily. And I'm sure you can imagine what that looked like. Ladies and gentlemen, Whistle Stop Tour spent a bit more time on that. We've got 20 minutes to go through your AI roadmap construction now, but hopefully you got a lot of value from those demos and just seeing how things run behind the scenes. And now you can think a little bit more about how you could copy those for yourselves. In this section, we're just going to look, like I said, at how you think about prioritizing AI use cases. And then we're going to remind you a little bit more about like how and where you should start. So when generating your AI use case list in order to come up with a proposed sequencing for your roadmap, you can call upon sort of major approaches like this. For those of you who don't know, and I'm sure there's probably most of you who don't understand or have heard of the jobs to be done framework, I'd suggest looking into this. Is quite an interesting business innovation approach. It gets used a lot by software companies, and it actually talks about what is it that the product that we are providing for customers. And in this instance, you're thinking about your customers not just in terms of the AI products that you can build for them, but you're thinking about customers as your internal workforce. And we recommend you start with the internal workforce. So your customer in this instance is an internal person. And what might they see as valuable from an AI implementation point of view? And what might they actually hire a product to do? Now, I know we're kind of blending and mixing frameworks here, but the reason this is interesting is because it asks you to think a little bit more intrinsically about what are we actually doing here that's going to add value to people internally and make it valuable enough that they get the hidden intention out of this tool. So to talk a little bit more concretely, there was a very famous Harvard case study on jobs to be done where McDonald's was commissioning a particular consultancy to run jobs to be done. And they talked, McDonald's talked to this consultancy about the fact that they weren't selling as many thick shakes as they would like. And they feel that this was particularly low margin product, which they would like to sell more of. And so they did a detailed study about the times of day where milkshakes are getting sold. And the initial reaction was sell more milkshakes with lunch and in the afternoon when people can use them as snacks. They actually found that there was a small cohort of the population using milkshakes and buying them in the morning, early in the morning. And when they worked out what was going on there, it may shock you. It turned out that commuters, American commuters, were getting a McDonald's thick shake between 6 and 8 o'clock in the morning because it was the best proxy they could get for a liquid breakfast on the go that they could drive to work with. And so in that instance, the customer was hiring the thick shake not just as a breakfast, but as a entertainment for a long commuter drive. And this is interesting, obviously, when you think about your products that you're selling to customers. But if you think about the tools you're trying to create internally, where do your AI automations go? How do your AI automations change the way people work? And how might they mix and match creative solutions for AI tools in the future? It's a bit more esoteric, but I think it's particularly interesting. And you can have a think about how it applies to your workforce simply by asking Claude to look at internal use cases for AI and using the jobs to be done framework to prioritize them. Then there's obviously the obvious like time audit. Where does people's time go? And that's the easiest place to start. You want to look at things that are repetitive. Research heavy tasks are a great candidate. You can mine pain points by getting people to talk about the most painful things they do on a week-to-week basis and running a short internal survey on that. And then you can obviously have a little bit more competitor intel and sort of understand what your market competitors may be doing internally and externally. We get asked a bit about this. Obviously, we can't share confidential information on other customers, but we will talk broadly to our clients around what we see in different industries in terms of great use cases for adoption. Most organizations begin with operations and admin, as mentioned, but marketing is also a great place to start, as I've just shown in my previous overview. Customer service, there's a lot of stuff that can happen internally, from ticketing triage to response and automation responses based on knowledge FAQs. This can be medium, but it can really move the needle on customer satisfaction if it improves the velocity by which you handle customer issues and complaints. And finance is also a great place to start as well, generally because you're working with cleaner, better structured data, and there's intelligence that you can run across that quite easily depending on the size of your organization. Filtering and sequencing. So, like I mentioned before, not every idea deserves a build. The tools are getting better and better, ladies and gentlemen, right now. And you can quite literally use out of the box AI tooling to to automate large subsets of workflows that actually would have required custom build a few years ago. We talked last time, for those of you who joined us, about the RICE scoring methodology. That stands for reach, impact, confidence, and effort, which is a very basic formula. You multiply reach and impact and confidence, and you divide by effort. And effort could be person weeks in this instance, or it could be one person working per day to implement this. In this instance, you can see how things start to stack up. So meeting synthesis tool actually has the biggest or the second largest reach of employee impact internally. The impact is rated on a scale 3 to 1. You could make it out of 10, you can make it out of 100, doesn't really matter. You just need to come up with, let's say we're rating it out of 3. A 3 impact is more than 5 hours back a week per person. A 2 impact is 2 hours, and a 1 is 1. And so you get a relative ranking of impact here. Confidence is your ability to actually think you can execute the use case. It could be very well known and out of the box. And so meeting tool synthesis, it strings together a few systems. So there's a little bit of complexity there, but actually it's a very well-known pattern and can be done quite easily, and it's quite easy to implement. In this instance, the first best scoring project is the customer ticket triage, because its reach is actually colossal and it has a medium impact and not too hard in execution. So this is how you can go about sequencing and thinking about where you want to start as well. We also advise organizations to start with quick wins. Quick wins build the upward spiral I talked about previously. The full evaluation lens that we try to talk to customers about is, look, initially we would encourage you again to start with things that are easy, but then move quickly to stuff that moves the needle. Again, this client that I've been speaking to this week is conscious that if they don't produce a use case that actually does move the needle and excites the majority of the workforce, they're worried they won't drive traction. I said to them, I agree with that, but I also think you should go after a number of low-hanging implementations which are easy and fast and which people still see value from. You build that muscle on how to do these things, and then you move to the more complex things, but agreed that a fast follower should actually be a high-impact piece. Can you build it? Can you do this internally? Do you need to outsource it? There's complexity there. You can work with your internal IT team, and if you don't have one, you can work with consultants like us, or you can work with consultants and IT, which is typically what most companies do. And is the input available and clean? We spoke about data cleanliness last time, and this remains a really important aspect. So it's not just cleanliness, it's hygiene. There's a thing out there called the data maturity model. You can hear me talk about this more in webinar 1, but we actually go through and we audit the fidelity, the hygiene of data that you have, and also like where your data is stored. Typically, most companies will have data across multiple systems and of different quality. The goal is to actually improve your data quality. That obviously is the lifeblood of AI. So better data equals better outcomes. You think a little bit about risk and compliance, of course, and adoption, and then lastly, how you're going to measure it. A lot of pilots actually do all the 5 steps and fail to go, oh, we didn't actually set the event tracking up for this particular piece of AI implementation, or in a much more basic heuristic, we just didn't have a way to check in weekly and score this with the team to see if it was producing the output. Be clear on how you're going to measure it. It matters in order to convey the success that you want, both internally and at the board level. The impact first filter was the thing that Judy was mentioning at the beginning. And yeah, this is a good one. We find that thinking about like, would this get funded quickly by the board or CEOs, or obviously a great way to think about it. You see the momentum flywheel that I've referenced anecdotally, again referenced here. A win that produces an agreed impact. So you don't want to be debating, well, I thought it was going to do this, and I thought, and this person says, I thought it was going to do that. So again, you're going in clear on what you're trying to measure, clear on what the outcomes is. When a win produces a aligned and agreed impact, the confidence builds and the organization explores more ideas and wins more. So build that loop. Again, change management in the context of technology and complex technology is very important. And we talk a lot to our clients around this. And is there a human in the loop for decisions that matter? This is so critical. We are not ready in most instances, unless you're in the top 1% of companies internationally, to hand out high value and high complexity and high risk tasks to agents. But we are ready to have agents intervene in those tasks and produce outputs which you then look at and feed back on comprehensively. This is the new way of working. Organizational org design matters a lot, and having a concept of how roles will change matters too. And so thinking about the AI adoption strategy in the context of how it will layer over the workforce that you're building and how what roles will change in that context is also a key part of this. A little bit about how we help organizations, because I think you can probably copy some of this yourself. And if you choose, we would obviously love to help you out as well. But our strategic approach starts with weeks 1 to 4, where we come in and we do awareness and strategy. We'll run a number of workshops with internal stakeholders, and we will dive into a range of questions around risk, data, strategy, opportunities, competitors, and we will then start to produce an AI readiness assessment, which is how ready is your org to act, along with a prioritized opportunity roadmap. It takes anywhere from 2 to 4 weeks. It's quite comprehensive, leans on all of the frameworks we've mentioned and more, and some of our internal IP. We then move to foundation and pilot, which means your management may select to get us to build some of this stuff for you, or you may choose to have us train some of your staff. However, you may actually just take that roadmap and say, thanks, we're going to sort it out from here. And that's absolutely a great way to run it as well, if you think you've got the nous and the approach and the right people to support that. And we do see a lot of organizations now with internal AI experts as well. So we work with those people, but then hand off quickly. And then you want to scale and govern. Governance is really important, having the right AI policies, having the right systems. We've advised on companies where they spin up cyber risk committees that oversee the AI governance group and the AI working group. You can have this as complex or as basic as you want, but you do need to have something in place. The team capability thing down here is we end up working a lot with organizations to train their staff using often just the personal development budget that organizations have, because they say, we'd actually just like to invest in this over the next year, and we'll have you in every quarter and you can assign homework, and we take people on a learning journey. And I think we've found that works all the way up to senior leaders as well as junior people, but we tend to run different tracks. Some people want to be handheld more, and so people can opt into certain tracks. There might be a fast optimist track where we're doing kind of more creative stuff. That's another thing we think works. If you're not going to use an external agency, you do want to think about what your training program is internally with your people and culture team, or whoever runs that for you guys, or folks, should I say. And then just a little bit more around, how we actually dive into the AI build section. So, we've talked about the road mapping, getting very clear on the quality of your data and the integration lenses. You may have internal systems that you're interested in knowing whether they can be upgraded with AI tools. And we do advise organizations, because right now there are a lot of tools that people use. It might be a mission critical system that you run for end-to-end customer management, and many industries have this. The people who run your internal systems, and even you, will be aware that there are AI tools that are getting sprinkled into these. Sometimes they're good propositions, sometimes they're bad. We advise in the roadmap on what's called build by partner. So we will either advise you to build it, or we'll say you can actually just buy this off the shelf as an upgrade to your existing tool. And we think that the data sovereignty, the data protection, and the approach of the company looks sound, because there are a lot of companies spinning up right now and then collapsing, as you would expect in this kind of cowboy era of new technology boom. And then the technical architecture proposal. And then we move into prompt engineering, getting the integrations and human in the loop stuff right. We move in agile sprints to build stuff and get user acceptance testing. And these are all technical terms, but used by software businesses. And software businesses are good at knowing how to deploy technology, as you would expect. So we borrow a lot of those methodologies. I'm going to finish up now-ish. So Judy, if we do have questions, but I'll do one more slide. And then what we're saying here is that we embed ourselves with champions, we test, we make sure it works. We have a hypercare period as well. And then lastly, you'll get this pack, but if you were looking for a roadmap for your next 90 days to get moving, we'd suggest going about it like this. Get your workshop happening with leadership, have a crack at doing the RICE methodology as well as applying some of the evaluation lenses we looked at. Have a think about what sequencing matters. We've talked today about the broad idea of sequencing, but what I've actually tried to do is give you the tools to think about what you would build first, then what you would go to, and then how it might play out from there, and all the other different components like change management and governance that you need to imbue into this. And so you need to determine that sequence, but you can do it based on what I've told you about today. You can start with the highest scoring use case. You got your success metrics and baseline, and you want to test with a small group. Document those learnings and iterate. And then lastly, you want to build out from there as well. So that's me for today. I really hope you've been able to get some value from it. If you'd like to reach out, I am Justin at Seidrlab.com. Our website's Seidrlab.com, and we will be joining you again on the 16th of June for webinar 3, which is a little bit more detail on launching one of those pilots that we just mentioned. I'll quickly check if we have any questions, Judy.
Yeah, thanks, Justin. That was really interesting, to say the least, and a bit mind-blowing. We do have a question. Do you have any tips for building effective AI agents to avoid the cited 90% failure rate? Or should we just accept that failure is part of the process?
Excellent question. I would encourage organizations to think that, yeah, quite literally, you have to be ready to fail. It's the organizations that are seeing this as a longer term play and going, we're going to run a controlled experiment in this area and see how it goes. And then we'll retro it, which basically means just talk about what went wrong and what went right. A great format is sort of start, stop, continue. Like, what do we want to continue doing this pilot? What would we stop? And what would, what would we start? What would we stop? What would we continue? But just what went well and what didn't go well. And then you can redesign that agent loop and improve from there. We are seeing agents performing much better. One way to experiment with this is actually to ask your large language model of choice, Copilot or Gemini or Claude, hey, can you do a research project for me and spin up sub-agents and tell me how those sub-agents are going to be working on this project? We try to tell people to get a feel for how the technology is working. When I get a bad result from Claude, I ask Claude to tell me what went wrong. And it will actually tell me I was pattern matching and not reading everything that you spoke about. And so the more you can build a sense of where the tools have blind spots and where they do great work, the better you'll get at deploying these pilots. And the technology is improving drastically at the same time as well. So a little bit of failure, but things are getting much better. And that iterative process is what we see as the winning habit.
Thanks, Justin. I don't think we have any other questions. You mentioned this at the beginning, and we had a session the other day with Governology, which is about governance for organizations such as CHP, and talking about AI. And maybe you could just comment on the importance of having an AI policy for, staff and board, etc., on, what you can do, what you can't do.
Yeah, no, great question. And this comes up a lot, Judy. If you don't have an AI policy in your organization right now, you must have one. And it can just be on your leadership sync agenda next week. I would say write a one pager, write it right in that session. What are the guidelines that you want? You don't need to overthink this. You could ask Claude to do this. What's critical is that your staff understand what your opinion is on using AI tools. If you've provided AI tools, what tools should they use? Under what conditions should they use it? And what data should they put in it? Those are the three questions that you need to go immediately into an organization with. And if anyone is uncertain, then a quick update from leadership to say, here is an update on our AI policy. We will produce a full document soon, but right now you're only sanctioned to use this tool. And this is critical, right? Because if you've got an enterprise plan, then your data is largely protected. I say largely because there's always an edge case when we have to accept the fact that there are data leaks. But yes, enterprise models do not train on your data. If anyone is using personal accounts, they will be training their data, or the large language company will be training that data in their models, which means there is a chance that that data could show up in an unrelated search when someone queries about a product. So that's what you want to avoid. You can make this iterative and you can build on that policy, and you can release an update every month if that's what it needs to be. Again, the answer is, how can large language model products help you do this? That's what I'd probably finish on. You can ask them to draft you one and you can review it internally and improve on it from there. But get started today.
Yeah, and That's what we're doing.
Lovely.
As we speak, almost. So that there is so much food for thought in what you just presented, Justin, and we're almost at the top of the hour. And it's great we can send everyone the slide deck because I think we've all got to be on top of this, or just getting started anyway. If you're not getting started, and it'd be interesting if we got you back in a year, Justin, to talk about AI or what's happening, the differences that we might see, which I'm sure there'll be tons.
Yeah, thanks, Judy. We're enjoying our partnership immensely with CHP, so we would welcome coming back and talking to your clients at any point in time. And like I said, if anyone would like to reach out to us with direct questions, then please do so.
And the next session is Tuesday, the 16th of June, same time. So I hope everyone will be at that. So we're on the hour, just about. So that is fabulous. Thanks, Justin, and thanks everyone for joining.
Thank you so much. Have a great day, everyone.
Thank you.